Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, guys. Welcome to your daily American English pronunciation show. Wake up, American. Like I said, this is the daily American English pronunciation show to make sure that you get in your 5 to 10 minutes of daily pronunciation practice in every single day. Because if you are serious about pronunciation, that is what it takes. It takes showing up, for 10 15 minutes a day, every day, to make sure that that's a little better, are getting all the practice in that you need to get real progress, noticeable progress, progress that you can detect and that others can also detect in your speech. And to guide you in that process, there's me. Hello, my name is Jeff. I rise with breath. It's one of the four keys to a natural sound in American English. I do apologize for the last couple of days. We've had to start a little bit early, just just some things related to the joys of parenting. Um, but we're still making sure that we get you all your practice in. So, of course, if you have questions about any of the things that we cover or sounds that you would like to see, you can always throw them in the questions so we can try to capture them in a future stream, just in case I miss you from our normal time. Today, I wanted to kind of discuss a little bit about the way pronunciation teachers kind of typically handle pronunciation versus how we kind of do it here. And the reason for that. So this is less of a pronunciation lesson, so to speak, but more just kind of a structural pronunciation technique and focus. When I first started teaching pronunciation, you can see it in my videos as well. I was kind of handling it the way that I find a lot of other pronunciation teachers are handling it as well. And that is with a lot of focus on where your tongue is, how round your lips are, how straight your lips are, and things like that. So a lot of kind of like focusing on what's happening with this part of your body up here, and a lot less focus on what's happening, from your throat downwards. And in fact, if you take a lot of linguistics courses, maybe some of you are actually English teachers, maybe some of you teach, even aspects of pronunciation to students. I know that we have some English teachers who do watch the channel, non-native speakers as well as native speakers. And if you take like linguistics classes, so much of the focus again is on the mouth position. You find charts, you see these visuals, you get these very descript um, techniques for, oh, you need to do this, you need to do this. And so I was doing a lot of that as well, because that's kind of just how we're trained. And then over time, I had a couple students I was working with, and they would have these like really great mouth positions. Technically they're putting all their tongue and everything in the right spot, but you would listen to them, you could clearly tell that they were not native speakers. So that's one of my first kind of indications that something wasn't quite doing what I wanted it to. And then another issue I was running into as well was that you would see these pronunciation videos, and the teachers would tell you to do these things with your mouth, and you're like, okay. So like, for instance, these examples, like an ooh sound for an ooh, or like a w sounds like that, you need to round your lips like ooh, 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 and things like that. So they round the lips, okay. Which is fine, cool, I get that. The problem though is that sometimes in the same video, sometimes in different videos, you would see that same teacher pronounce a word with an ooh sound, and the lip position was completely different. They would say essentially, like, "Oh, I'll talk to you soon." And so I'm like, "Wait a minute! Like you've created this video where you're telling people that you need to, have these really round positions like sue, ooh, sue, 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 sue. You can see my lips pushing out like kind of flaring, like sue, 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 or like sue, sue, sue. You're telling students you need to do that, and then later on you're saying a similar sound, and everything's completely different." And so I really kind of started asking myself, why is this happening? Why are we able to achieve a natural sound if we have the round lips, but then also not? And what I've discovered is that yes, the mouth position things can work, but a lot of times they also can lend us to start acting in ways that are similar, more similar to our first language. For instance, going back to that ooh sound, a lot of languages have an ooh sound or something comparable, but the placement's higher and the lips are rounded and tighter, like ooh, ooh, ooh. And so this wasn't where I wanted to find an alternative. I wanted to find something that could explain it. And this is when I started my exploration of other concepts. Okay, the four concepts that we spent so much time talking about, you know, placement, pitch, breath, trying to weaken vowel sounds. This is basically after kind of a couple years of just exploring why are these mouth position things happening. And this, in my opinion, really explains a lot. It explains why, you can talk with very, very exaggerated mouth movements. If you're watching the video, you can see that. But you can also talk with, very minimal mouth movements as well. And both of them can be very understandable. And the reason for that is because in American English, we're not focused on individual sounds. We're not focused on the 44 consonant and vowel sounds that exist in American English. At least there may actually be more. Linguists debate about this. And I don't know about you, but if I were trying to talk and trying to remember 44 different mouth positions as I was talking, I would find that to be very difficult. I don't have time when I'm talking to think about, oh, this sound I need to do this sound links with this, so I need to do I don't have time to think about that. I don't have time to memorize 44 sounds and put them into practice immediately. So, what I have found instead to be much more effective with students, and this is especially geared for people who maybe are less familiar with the channel, but if you are familiar with the channel, these are things that are still going to hopefully resonate with you as well. That's probably why you're here. I'm much less interested in those 44 sounds. I'm much more interested in what I believe are four components that I want you to just kind of think about every time you talk, because I think it's easier to remember four things than 44 things. We're just going to do a very, very, very rapid run through um, of them. The first thing I need you to think about is your placement. Where are you projecting from? Going back to that ooh sound. If you're projecting sound from your lips, like farther forward, very frontal, like ooh, 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 that's what it's going to sound like. But if I make sure that when I'm speaking in English, I'm just projecting from a lower position, like down here, okay, towards my chest, lower part of my throat, that's going to sound like Can you hear that difference between ooh, 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 and pretty big difference, right? If you can hear that, so can your listener. I guarantee you. And so that's the very first thing. Everything you say, you want from a lower placement. So my first tip for you is try to find one sound that you feel like you can make consistently with a lower placement. Maybe it's an ah sound, maybe it's an ooh sound, maybe it's an o sound, maybe it's an e sound. You can hear all those are coming from the same spot. E, ooh. All those are coming from the same spot. So that's the very first thing. When you're speaking American English, get them from the same spot. The second thing I need you to be mindful of is that if you are able to consistently get airflow and breath, you're able to feel your diaphragm. If you're not sure what your diaphragm is, it's this organ that's like right here. You need it to breathe, but a lot of English learners are not using it. Instead, their lungs are doing all the work, and that's resulting in a sound that's a lot tighter. It's a lot more confined. It's not as open and it's not as resonant. Like, for instance, if you listen to me, if I say, for instance, just like I'm going to say the word like duh, and just a bunch of times like da 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 da. Do you hear that kind of like that warm, low, kind of bassy sound? That's what American English in general is really looking for. And what I'm doing as I do that is my diaphragm is slowly contracting like da 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 da. So that's kind of what you want when you speak in American English. Try to feel your diaphragm. Because if you're using your lungs, it's gonna sound like da 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 da. It's a little choppier. Not it's There's not that really that resonance. It's a little higher. It's still clear and understandable, but it's not the most natural sounding. So that's, again, the second thing I want you to be thinking about today. If you speak in English today, I need you to be thinking about, how can I engage my diaphragm as I talk? How can I keep my placement low? The next thing that I found to really be transformative with my students in their speech is adding pitches. Okay, what are pitches? It's like if you can do a basic scale, like da 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 da. I just did a couple steps down. Can you do is like that back up? Da 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 da. Can you go high? Da 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 da. Can you go back to your midpoint? Da 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 da. Things like that. How many of those pitches are you using in your normal life? If you start listening to native speakers actively, you're going to find that they're probably using more pitches than you are. A quick example. See if you can say this word like I am. Wow. That's pretty bad. I think I do better. Wow. There we go. That's a little better. See how high I went and also how low. This is a key component of the language. We need to go high. We need to go low. We need to be able to hit highs and lows. And what we're going to find is that in sentences, basically, after every thought group, after every group of words, we're going to change the pitch. Yeah, I did it right there. After every group of words, we're going to change the pitch. After every group of words, we're going to change the pitch. So that's the next thing I really want you to remember and consider. That's step 3. Again, we're trying to remember 4 things every time we talk. That's the first 3. Last one, American English really doesn't care about consonant sounds. And this is one that's easy to say, but kind of hard to implement because we're so used to speaking in a way that's very clear and understandable. Consonants allow us to speak in a way that's clear and understandable, but that clarity is also the thing that, in all honesty, is hurting our English the most. We are trying to open up our vowel sounds and extend breath. Okay, so our very last step that I need you to consider is try to extend your vowel sounds. You can see this, for instance, if I have a little sentence. I'm going to put this in so you guys can see it. All right, let's take a look at this sentence here. So, if I have heavy, heavy, heavy consonant sounds when I say this, it's going to sound something like, they didn't really talk all that much. They didn't really talk all that much. Okay. Understandable, but maybe not the most natural sounding. We want our vowel sounds to dominate. So instead of saying they didn't, let's focus on that A and that I. They didn't. Can you hear that difference between they didn't and they didn't? How about really talk? If I want to extend the vowels and weaken the consonants, becomes really talk. So that they didn't really talk becomes like they really talk. And then we have all that much, which again goes heavy on the consonant sounds. All that much becomes all that much. All that much. They didn't really talk all that much. They didn't really talk all that much. They didn't really talk all that much. Compare that to they didn't really talk all that much. Pretty different sound, right? So this is what I really need you to be considering. And this is the thing that when I shifted away from focusing on individual sounds and correct mouth positions for all those sounds and things like that, and instead I started teaching placement, pitch, breath, and trying to weaken your consonant sounds, it's amazing the difference that that causes. In fact, what we find is that we don't need perfect pronunciation. We don't need perfect sounds for every individual sound. These are things that are going to capture the rhythm of the language in a way that sounds a lot more natural. If you guys agree with me, if you guys have found something similar in your own speech, I would love to hear about your experiences to let other people know because that's our goal. We're trying to really transform the way pronunciation is taught. Okay. I think the current system works if you're able to keep in mind, placement and breath and these concepts. But the problem is a lot of teachers aren't even mentioning these things. You can see it if you guys have pronunciation textbooks. They're often great. My favorite is like Mastering American Accent. There's no mention of placement in there. There's no mention of breath in there. There's really not even a mention of pitch. And there's nothing in there to really mention about how we need to weaken our consonant sounds and and strengthen our vowels. None of those things are mentioned. What are mentioned a lot are visuals on where to put your tongue, things that are very heavy on mouth position. There are other ways that we can achieve a more natural sound, oftentimes faster. So let me know about your experience, guys. I would love to hear about how things are going for you. Also, again, I think it's easier to remember 4 things when you're talking than 44 things. Maybe you'll agree with that. But yeah, just kind of a quick reminder about what those 4 steps are. Just it's always good to kind of have them in the back of your mind as you're talking. I will be back tomorrow morning, hopefully at the normal time. Knock on wood. I'll see you guys later. Have a good day. Have a good night. Good afternoon. I will talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye.